Sunday morning cold, eyes on the score, touchdown dance ball, craving for more. Friends are calling, trades are on fire. Rookies falling, championship desire. Fantasy football fever, chasing the dream. Top of the leaderboard, we're the winning team.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Healers, a show that is Dynasty Fantasy Football. We are welcoming back FF Captain 22 himself, Colton Palmer. Welcome back.
Hey, thank you for the great welcome back, and thank you to the Fantasy Football Healers with their generous paternity leave. Gave me a few weeks to adjust because, man, life with 3 under 3 it's crazy. It's a crazy time. We're surviving and thriving. My wife and I, we're just rolling with the punches at this point. You know, there's a lot of people joke around that they like to hang out with people with 3 kids because they're just so chill because anything can be happening, screaming, whatever. We're just sitting there trying to make it. So our house is a little bit of a noisemaker, but you know, we're loving every minute of it.
We love having you back, Colton. We wish you again congratulations on your growing family. And with paternity leave, we're in a new world. Like everyone deserves some paternity leave to, be around your growing family.
Yeah, man, that baby bonding time is important.
Sure is. These are the times. These are the times. These are going to be the moments that you're always going to remember, Colton.
Yeah, it's because I'm up all night just staring at him, wondering why he won't sleep. But that's besides.
And you'll never forget it.
I'll never forget.
You will never forget.
Just go to sleep. You're tired. Why don't you sleep?
I still remember with my daughter, like we had to drive her around from like 6 months to 12 months just to get her to sleep. And my wife was like, I just want her to sleep into the crib. And I said, look, I've got her in the crib. Why don't you look at the webcam? And she looked at it. And my daughter was just laying there in her car seat in the crib. And she's like, that's not what I mean.
I remember the days when we worked. You come in, you're just bags under your eyes. You looked exhausted. I'm like, had to drive Ellie around last night, huh? Yep. Yes, I did.
One of the last times I remember going to Steak and Shake at like 3:30 in the morning. And then in our town, you could still get the shake. I was waiting in the drive-through just by myself. There was nobody there, but I was waiting there for like 15 minutes for the one person to like finally get my shake made.
Good old Steak and Shake, man. They take forever, no matter what. It doesn't matter.
I don't know. The one in our town just is so slow.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Colton, we have some news. Colton, I'm sharing this because I don't know if you're aware, but Cam Skattebo has been accused of causing a career-ending injury to his ex-teammate, former Arizona State teammate, Katagaris. He allegedly jumped up and down on the back of a golf cart during a Sun Devils practice on July 31st in 2023, causing the seat to break, resulting in a fall that led to a severe injury and the end of that person's football career. There was a really bad laceration, essentially going all the way down to the bone, and there was a rupture to the distal triceps tendon, about 90% had given way, and it required surgery and months of physical therapy. I just thought that was a really interesting news take, and I don't think that's going to affect his career in any way for the NFL because it happened while he was in college.
Yeah, I mean, just guys being dumb, it sounds like. Whatever happens on the golf course stays on the golf course. So I don't know if you're much of a golfer, but stupid things do happen. Yeah, I don't think it'll affect his career specifically because it sounds like it was just an accident and just guys being guys. But that is tragic, man. That sucks.
Who hasn't jumped up and down on a golf cart or like did donuts with a golf cart as you're going down a hill?
I can say I've done a few things on a golf cart, and it was all in the name of fun, you know?
For sure. We've got some more Shadur Sanders news. Shadur Sanders was pulled over going 101 miles per hour at midnight on June 17th. He fast.
He's so fast. What is it? Every single year we say this. Why do these rookies keep driving so fast? Every single year it's something. Jordan Addison 1 year. You got Rashi Rice.
1 year. Jordan Addison a couple years.
2 years now? Was it 2 years?
Yeah, the one time he got in trouble and he said he had a sick dog that he had to go back to.
Yeah.
That's how everyone was like, "Oh, I feel so bad and touched for Jordan Addison because he's going back home to be a hero."
And then he did it again last year. Right, you're right. Spot, you're super right.
He couldn't pull the dog He couldn't pull the dog trick 2 years in a row.
I mean, you could try though. You certainly got to give that effort.
Sure.
It worked the first time. But my goodness, what a way, especially being like, sliding in the draft, you're fighting for a spot, like just use your brain. I was actually scrolling on Twitter and was like reading all the comments. And they're like, wow, what a class act. See, he was so kind to the officer and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, just don't drive 100 miles an hour.
What's he doing out there at midnight too? Like, can you maybe pick up the playbook?
Gosh.
Come on, kid.
Oh man. Just making it harder on himself,
Colten, the rich get richer. Jair Alexander is now signed with the Baltimore Ravens. Are the Baltimore Ravens not the favorite to win the Super Bowl this year?
They keep coming in as the favorite, and just something keeps happening. It's I don't even know what it is with the Baltimore Ravens, but for some reason I can't trust them to win the Super Bowl. I trust them as a great team, and I want dynasty and fantasy assets, but man, I just can't trust them to finish for some reason. It's just not there. Not in
They just can't make it past the championship.
They just can't do it, and I don't understand why. They should. They really should.
We've got some Raiders news.
Raider Nation, let's go. Raider Nation.
I'm not going to play the whole drop because it's like 30 seconds.
They're going to start thinking we're Raiders fans.
Yeah, definitely not. But that's a shout out to Ice Cube for Raider Nation back when they were with the Oakland Raiders. But Raheem Mostert is set to be the third down back behind Genty. And just a little bit of a retake. Mostert had a prior relationship with Coach Chip Kelly. He was picked up as an undrafted rookie free agent back in Philadelphia. And then he traveled with Chip Kelly when he went over to the 49ers. And so he should know Chip Kelly's situation and scheme. And so I don't know how much bend he's going to have for getting in there with Genty, but Genty's still going to have to take some time off, and they're probably not going to want to have to run him into the ground while they're still growing their franchise. So it could be like a Bijan Algier type of scheme with going back and forth, and he might show some fantasy potential.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I was actually just going to say that, the fact that they don't want to run Genty into the ground, they spent a first on him. They want some longevity, especially while they're trying to rebuild this program back up. So yeah, there's going to be somebody to take some heat off, and Mostert has proven that he can handle it and do it. So especially if something happens to Genty, Mostert is a solid depth piece to have there. So just a little insurance back, not a bad one to have.
Rashi Rice is projected to not be suspended in 2025, not until the courts determine the verdict.
Once again, driving so fast. My goodness.
Fast and the Furious.
Fast and the Furious NFL.
I don't have that drop. Sorry, Colton.
My goodness. So that's great news to Rashi Rice owners around the dynasty. So I traded him away just because I figured he'd be causing more issues, and he's got some serious issues off the field. But just getting another year, that wide receiver core is starting to get a little bit muddy with Rice and Worthy and Hollywood Brown coming in healthy. So maybe Rashi can reestablish himself as the one, but I think it's going to be a fight in that Chiefs wide receiver core. I don't know who you're thinking will come out on top as one, but I think Rice has a good chance to reemerge here.
I think Rice has as good a chance as any of them, and he's probably one of the cheaper options. I think, well, obviously Hollywood Brown is the cheapest of the three, but I think you can still get Rashi Rice for a relatively small payout.
Yeah, especially with that, with the suspension looming overhead, because it's like, oh, if he doesn't get suspended this year, it's coming next year. So so with that just leaning over there, you might be able to get a little discount.
Yeah, and if you want another discount on a receiving weapon for the Kansas City Chiefs, Travis Kelce is locked in for the 2025 season. He was a tight end 5 last year. Didn't feel like it, but he was. And he's aiming for his 12th straight tight end 1 finish.
I tried to trade for Kelce last year, and they still just wouldn't give him up. So we'll have to see on where his price lands. If he comes out a little slow with all of these wide receivers, maybe having a hot start, you might be even get a steeper discount, but they really like to rely on him on that back end of the year. So come championship time, he's definitely a nice asset to have.
Yeah, I seen him go pretty cheap in the No Guts, No Glory League. Kelce was traded for a 4th, and the rookie tight end that ended up going to the tight ends, Helm. It was Helm and a 4th for Travis Kelce, and I'm like, are you kidding me?
That's a steal. That's an
The
absolute
non-athletic Gunnar Helm.
Yeah, we weren't fans.
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Colton, are you ready for your fluff pieces of the week?
Oh, I'm ready.
Jackson Dart fitting into the scheme, and JJ McCarthy dominating practice.
I just can't with you. I can't. Love him already, would you? If he wins you guys a Super Bowl, are you still going to hate him? Like, if he does it, are you going to hate him still?
So I leaned into possibly being wrong with JJ McCarthy, but I'm still not a JJ McCarthy fan. Don't get me wrong. But I do have a few of his rookie cards.
Oh.
Rookie football cards. I ended up getting, I think, 5 or 6 of the cards this week with a couple Addisons, Jefferson, and Aaron Jones. And I had a friend of mine that I ended up buying a few cards from. And I was like, you know what? At the very least, I'll have them posted somewhere in the back of this room here, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I still like JJ McCarthy. His price is getting awfully steep, though, in Dynasty, especially super flex leagues. It's kind of crazy what he's going. I actually have an offer dangling right now. I am the JJ McCarthy owner, and my brother and I are in talks of JJ McCarthy for Baker Mayfield, and I'm really hoping he gives in and gives me Baker.
Oh, okay, yes.
I want Baker.
I was like, hit that button.
I'm trying.
What are you doing?
I keep trying to talk him into it, and he's at a point where his team's really old and quite possibly starting to rebuild. So I keep dangling JJ McCarthy.
Got to lean into the age, and JJ McCarthy. I mean, look at he's dominating practices. Did you not see in the OTAs he had the most touchdowns of any quarterback in the league?
Precisely. So I mean, I like JJ still, but man, with his price where it's going, it's crazy, especially with how unknown it is. In the other terms of Jackson Dart over there in New York, people keep talking about how Russ is looking good too. So I don't know if we even see Dart see the field this year. It might be a learning season. And that's going to be another unknown going into next year, and his value is just going to kind of stay where it's at. So definitely going to be an unknown for a little bit, but I foresee Russ finishing out the season unless he really, really goes downhill.
They got one of the toughest schedules in the NFL with the Giants, and so I think we will see some Winston also dabbled in there. Russell Wilson was talking up Jameis Winston and how he's bringing the culture and bringing the fun to the Giants.
Because that man is just perfection. just perfection.
So I don't think Jackson Dart sniffs the field this year.
No, I agree.
Even with what I think is going to be just a terrible record. I mean, why do the Giants want to win anyway?
I see a world where the Giants are holding on to that first for next year, the 101. And if Arch Manning's on that board at the 101, I don't see him passing it up.
Well, and Just last week, we had Zach from Tier 1 quarterback, and he thinks that Arch Manning isn't coming out until 2027.
Which is a very good possibility. He's eligible next year, but there's a good possibility he just stays for 2 years because this is his first official year of being the starter. So only starting one season in college, there's a possibility he holds on for an extra year because for some reason Texas loved the crappy Quinn Ewers, but NFL draft told us what he really is. So.
Yep. Well, and I think you brought up a good point. I think there's a good chance that Jackson Dart gets Josh Rosen.
There's a very good chance. Very, very good chance. I mean, even if he doesn't get the opportunity to get Josh Rosen next year, if they are poor again when he's the starter, he gets Josh Rosen.
Colton, I've got to rewind a little bit and at least bring up these two talking points from past news that you've missed over the last couple weeks, and I just want to get your take on them.
Are you about to hurt me? Are you about to bring me pain?
I don't think this one is.
Oh, okay.
J.K. Dobbins signs with the Broncos. He did not sign with the Bears, and he didn't sign with the Vikings as we were hoping, but he did sign with a team that needed an RB2 in the Broncos. What do you think about J.K. here?
I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I hate it for RJ Harvey, and I hate it for J.K. Dobbins. I think we're going to be seeing a split backfield. I mean, everybody's always said they want a Sean Payton running back because he produces high-end running backs, especially fantasy-wise. And I think that Harvey had the possibility to really produce early on, and I thought J.K. Dobbins still had the opportunity to produce as long as they both had their own teams. They could both be 3-down backs. And here we are looking at a split backfield with two very talented running backs is the problem. And so I could foresee a problem where, RJ Harvey and JK are sharing this year and Harvey's already old. So you're missing out on one season and, maybe he becomes the sole back next year, but you're starting to run low on time. So it really dampened both of their dynasty value. I mean, they're both still great insurance back if one or the other goes down. I mean, the other one's going to emerge well, I believe. But it just kind of dampens both their values because of that unknown situation.
Well, what's crazy to consider is that RJ Harvey and Dobbins are only 2 years apart in age.
I was just thinking that. I'm like, how close in age are they? Dobbins is going into his fifth year, sixth year, fifth year, and they're 2 years apart. So it's just crazy. But yeah, it just sucks for both of them, I think. I was actually really mad when I saw that and mad at our Vikings for not signing him.
I as a Harvey owner, for fantasy football, of course, we want him to have all the carries that he can handle, but this will probably ensure his health for the rest of the season. I think it's an excellent football move for JK to, attach his wagon onto the Broncos and their offense, and they're making things happen. I think both of them are going to have some huge touchdown upside. This team is going to be scoring a ton of points, and they can move the football, and their defense is really good, and that means they're going to be leaning on the run quite a bit because, let's face it, they don't have a lot of receiving weapons outside of Sutton.
No, it's that is the big question with the Broncos is their passing game going to be able to continue to be as productive as it was last year?
Evan Ingram.
They added Evan Ingram. They've got Cortland Sutton.
That's it.
And then I'm done.
They got Mims, but he's
Marvin
just
Mims,
showing flashes.
He really started to step it up at the end of the year last year, and everybody's kind of hanging on to that. But we've seen him do this multiple seasons now where he shows big flashes and then vanishes, big flashes and then vanishes. If you're a Marvin Mims owner and there's people excited about him, I'm selling him and trying to get whatever I can. He's showing that little big flash that he gets, every once in a while. Like I sold him a couple of years ago after he had a big flash and people were excited about him. I think he's just a guy that can handle big flashes here and there, but man, they're going to have to really, really up this passing game and try to be as productive as they were last year in order to continue that.
What about Pat Bryant or Troy Franklin? Some of our listeners might be really invested in Pat Bryant, an Illini wide receiver getting drafted in the third round. or Troy Franklin, who got drafted fairly early in the 4th round just last year. Are these wide receivers guys that you want to hang your hat on?
I mean, Pat Bryant, it's not something you can ignore getting the 3rd round draft capital, but we've seen that these guys that no one's even heard of or really scouted just because he was just a guy in college, and then all of a sudden he gets a super high overreaching draft capital, getting drafted in the 3rd round. I just don't see those typically working out. I mean, the numbers have got to show that these guys that get way overreached on just aren't end up working out. So I'm passing on Pat Bryant, especially with where he's going. I mean, you're still having to spend draft capital. If he was an undrafted guy and I'm spending, a
undrafted
yeah,
fab,
like $1 fab, whatever, I'll take my shot and let him sit there in my taxi squad. But for the most part, I'm not trying to spend money on or spend draft capital on him. I don't think it's going to work out. I know there's a lot of people that are excited, but I'm not one of those.
Speaking of draft capital, the Colts had spent a lot of draft capital on this quarterback, and I spent a lot of draft capital on him too when he was a rookie in our rookie drafts. Anthony Richardson has another shoulder injury. The same shoulder that he ended up tearing his AC joint. Was it his first year? I think it was first year in the league. And he decided not to have surgery on that shoulder just 2 years ago. And now he's already been going to get a second, third opinion on his shoulder and what he's going to do. But apparently he's going to be available for training camp. Colten, what do you make of Anthony Richardson's shoulder, and are you buying him in Dynasty Fantasy Football at the low price?
So I was sitting there last night trying to rock my middle child to sleep, and I was thinking about this show today. And I was like, Dustin's going to ask it. He's going to bring up Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. I was like, I know he's going to do it. And I'm trying to think about how I defend it and how I talk about it. And the point is, I can't anymore. I mean, I've been saying, though, that I'm out on Anthony Richardson because of how bad it's been. And I don't want Daniel Jones. But at this
Get
point,
back in there, Colten.
But at this point, it's Indiana Jones season, baby.
Gotta be.
It
has to be.
I don't know. I don't know what to do anymore.
I think that'd be the best for the Colts is to just let Anthony Richardson sit behind Daniel Jones, let Daniel Jones do his Daniel Jones stuff, and eventually the Colts are going to be like, we're done with this. Throw Anthony Richardson in there and see if he can do anything better. But if you put Anthony Richardson out there and he's playing like garbage, they're going to be like, get this guy out of town.
I think it's honestly best to let him play himself out of the league at this point. Let Richardson play. They're going to not win games, and then they're going to have high draft capital next year, and you just take another shot. Some guys just don't work out. We've seen it happen plenty of times with all these quarterbacks. I mean, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, they're out, they're gone, they're done. The problem is you can't hang on for too long. You can't keep saying, well, he was a developmental piece. Okay, well, he's been developing 3 years now. We should
Have they really developed him, though, Colten? Have they shown any effort in developing Anthony Richardson? They threw him out there as a rookie, and he obviously wasn't mature enough, and he didn't show enough in the game to even warrant the team to back him.
No. And he's lost
breathers on a third down.
He's lost the locker room. It's just an absolute mess. Shane Steichen, I know, he's probably on the chopping block. Rest in peace, Jim Irsay, but his daughters have now taken over. So maybe this takes a little heat off of Steichen. Maybe they give him an extra year. I know Jim would not put up with it, but maybe they give him an extra year if they are bad, just because it's new ownership and they're trying to figure out what to do. But man, it's getting ugly there in Indianapolis, and I think he plays Daniel Jones to see if he can win a couple of games, and I think that's what's worse for the team.
Colten, I also had to wear my Adrian Peterson jersey here today, also, because
AP
made the news again. Ended up during a poker game, he was just throwing his fists around, and after the footage came out, he's like, "Oh man, no, it's like two brothers, just playing around, just messing around. We good, man, we good." And it's like, did you watch the video, man? They were going at it for a
Dude,
while.
that guy was catching hands.
There's haymakers getting thrown.
Yes, they were going for the knockout. That was incredible. I saw it.
Celebrity boxing coming straight to you.
He just needs to get in the ring, man. We've seen a couple of NFL players go and do it, and AP, man, he should do it. I think after watching that
rocked.
video, it would be awesome. But I did see make the news again. AP just doing AP things. At least it's not his kid this time.
Well, I was just gonna say, do you think you whipped him
Yeah,
in the video?
maybe, probably
soon?
afterwards. Too soon.
Soon. Oh man, well that's pretty much all the news and notes that I had, Colton. You've been gone for a couple weeks. Do you want to share any news and notes or anything else from around the league that you've either heard about or you've been interested in, or even just thoughts on Dynasty Fantasy Football?
Oh man, lots of thoughts. I've had a couple of trades go through. I actually, since we were speaking about the Kansas City wide receiver room, I drafted Xavier Worthy last year. He had a pretty solid season, enough to boost his value. I think he's sitting at wide receiver 24. And I was trying to look on moving and I think cashing in on his bump in wide receiver 24. I like him, but I think he was a little bit elevated for me, especially with Rashi Rice returning. Hollywood Brown is hopefully going to have a healthy season. And I was able to flip him. I got Jaylen Waddle in a second for Xavier Worthy. So I'm still a believer in Waddle. There's lots of things, lots of people are kind of down on him, but man, he's still a good wide receiver. He's very talented. We've seen what he can do. He's finished as the wide receiver 7 before, and he was wide receiver 13 his rookie season, went 13-7. That just doesn't vanish. The talent doesn't just disappear. They've had a rough couple of seasons there in Miami, just between Waddle's injuries. And I think he was able to finally heal up, get healthy last year. And hopefully at this point, we see him make his emergence, and you're able to buy him cheap right now. I mean, I was able to sell a guy and get some draft capital back too, to get Jaylen Waddle. I think right now he's a good buy. And I think Worthy is kind of a good sell with how this wide receiver room's kind of getting a little shaky. So able to kind of capitalize on two different things.
Yeah, about Waddle cheap in the Wizarding World last year, and he really didn't do a whole lot for me in best ball format. And best ball, again, I love it because you can use his points, or you can just let him sit there on the bench, and you've got. I think Waddle is definitely getting overlooked, and we saw Tyreek Hill give up on the Dolphins just last year, and I'm not a believer that Tyreek Hill has a whole lot left in the tanks. That being said, why not Waddle? And you got a second on top also. I love that.
Yeah, it was absolutely beautiful. They tried to negotiate a third rather than a second. I'm like, I don't think so. I was like, I'd rather just hang on to the explosiveness. When formatting trades and you're talking, use like words, try to just twist it just a little bit. Use like explosiveness, use like all these things that like convince people that they're getting a good deal. I mean, it's not like Worthy's a bad player. They are still getting a good deal. And this is a team that's contending, and I'm more rebuilding. So I was like, they get the high upside of Worthy. He could blow up, and they're like, you're right. And they end up giving me the second rather than the third. So, I mean, just don't try to poo-poo on people, but use your words to kind of, talk them into what you're wanting and thinking,
Yep. Well, I think the main thing is just having that communication. I think the hardest part is if you're just like, reject, or just letting it sit there. You've got to be an active fantasy football player. And what I love about your trade also is you traded for the same person and got a second on top, because Xavier Worthy is Waddle and Waddle is Xavier Worthy. They're the same type of player. Waddle's a little bit older, like 2 years older, maybe
2 years.
And yeah, 2 years older. And I feel like they have about the same amount of chance of getting touchdown equity when getting targets for both of their teams.
Yeah. And when you have wide receivers or pretty much any position, when you got guys that are in the same tier or even, sitting there in the same tier, but you see a big discrepancy in their value like that, and you're able to flip one and get a little bit back, I mean, that's totally worth doing. So depending on how you have your own players tiered out, if you're looking at it and you're like, man, I've got two guys in the same exact tier, like you said, pretty much the same player, but I can send him this guy and this guy get this guy back plus, absolutely take that opportunity every time. That's how you build a dynasty. That's not how you just win championships, but that's how you're competitive year in and year out, is you keep reloading, but getting the same caliber guy.
Colton, I think we got a name for this podcast, and I think it's got to be Xavier Worthy and Waddle Spiderman meme.
For those on YouTube, you're seeing this. For those on Spotify, we're pointing. We're pointing.
I mean, that's got to be it's a pretty perfect name for this podcast, in my opinion. I did put a poll up. Looks like it was back at the end of May, and it was Roma Dunze or Xavier Worthy in Dynasty. 86% of the voters went Roma Dunze and only 14% with Xavier Worthy. So
that's an easy. I mean, that's two very confusing wide receiver rooms.
Yes,
a lot of
much.
off the feeds. So yeah, that's a great. I believe I actually voted on that, and I was Rome City,
Yeah.
baby.
I can't vote for my own, but I thought that was pretty good. I had a trade that went through at the end of May also, and I ended up trading Michael Pittman and Trey Benson for Chris Olave. And I ended up putting it as a poll on FF Healers on Twitter. There was 22 votes. 59% was in favor with me with Chris Olave, and 41% was with the Pittman and Trey Benson side. I thought it was a really, really interesting trade for both of our teams, and apparently the public is thinking the same. It was a relatively close poll.
See, those are the best kind of trades right there. That's how trading should go. It's absolutely a situation where both teams kind of benefit and see, because I could see either way where it's like how you would want either side. Chris Olave, the injury history, he's a very good wide receiver, and I think his value is just kind of down right now. So you're capitalizing on a down value. But same with Michael Pittman. His value's down, but still has some upside. And Trey Benson didn't get replaced as the running back too. And James Conner has been
Another year older.
Another year older. He's been known not to finish the full season, and he's going into his 30-year-old season. 30, like he's getting old. Like at some point, this man's body is not going to be able to take it. And Trey Benson didn't get replaced. So, you're getting an absolute insurance back. So I like both sides of the trade. With that, though, I would absolutely lean the Olave side, because I'm still a firm believer in Olave as long as he can just stay healthy. But, man, it's another Tua situation with all those concussions he's had.
Well, there's Tua, and Brandon Cooks is still in the league.
Yeah.
He's like going into his 16th season, and he had all those concussions that everyone was worried about also. So I don't know. As a medical provider, I'm concerned about concussions, but as a dynasty fantasy football owner, I'm not.
Well, that's the other thing, is you can't predict injury no matter what. You can say someone's an injury prone or they've had these injuries, so they're going to for sure be injured. But you can't predict that. Tua had a season that he didn't get injured or have a concussion at all, and we saw him do good that season. So, I mean, you just can't predict injury. And you can't play like someone's going to be injured. Like, oh, I almost guarantee it. I need to get rid of him. Why? But you can't just say, hey, he's going to be hurt.
Well, and you brought up a good point there with James Conner. Last year was the weirdest year, in a good way, health-wise. There was only like one running back of consequence that got injured and was out for the season, and that was CMC.
Right.
Outside of that, everyone stayed healthy at the running backs. So all your RB1s, they were there all season long for you. That's not going to happen this year. That's not going to happen in most years.
Not going to happen in most years. And like I said, it's impossible to predict injury. You don't want to play like your guy's going to be injured. You don't want to be like, I don't want to because he's going to be hurt. Well, you don't know that, but it's always nice to have the insurance back. And
so you want Kendre Miller?
I don't want Kendre Miller. I don't want Kendre Miller. Devin Neal all day.
Nobody
baby.
seems to want him.
Devin Neal is going to be taking that spot. but it's important to just have those insurance backs and to make sure that you stay having those guys on your squad, so you're able to, buffer your injuries and whatnot. But yeah, don't play like they're going to be injured, but also be cognizant that they can be injured.
Colton, I have one more poll that we ended up posting on FF Healers on Twitter. And this was a trade that Zach from the quarterback tier 1 QB and I had performed here. And I had Drake London, and I traded him away for DJ Moore and Devonta Smith in a very deep starting roster. There was 39 people that ended up voting on this poll. And according to the public, I lost. 56% would rather have Drake London than DJ Moore and Devonta Smith. 44% went my way.
That's another good one. Drake London is valued as a top 10 wide receiver right now. We saw what he could absolutely do with Michael Penix at the end of the season. I don't know if that's just heightened because Michael Penix was thrust into this position of us being a starter after Kirk Cousins was kind of having a god-awful season. But he was thrust into this position, and I have a feeling he was like, you know what? I know who can catch the ball, and I know that someone I can rely on, so I'm just chucking it to him and hoping he can come up with it. I have a feeling that was a lot of it. I don't think we're going to see those numbers continue throughout a whole season. That's not happening. I think he's going to get used to having, Mooney out there, maybe Pitts, London, and at least moving the ball around a little bit more. He's not going to be hyper targeted like that as Penix gets more comfortable and playing in the NFL and in this offense. I do, however, think Drake London will be a important piece of this offense, and I do value him as a top. I'd put him right about. I have updated my wide receiver rankings a little bit because I've been busy, but I would probably put him right around 8 or 9, in my own opinion. So definitely getting a top 10 there. But I also have Devonta Smith as a top 15 wide receiver. I probably would put him around 14, 15, and then I'd have DJ Moore probably close to like the upper 20 or lower 20s, 21, 22-ish. So depends on where you're at with that trade. If you need the higher caliber, I could see you trading for Drake London. If you need a little bit more depth and to spread that out a little bit, DJ Moore and Devonta Smith are very fine options. Especially since I think we see this Philadelphia offense start passing the ball more this year. We could see them really move the ball around, and he hyper targets between those two wide receivers. It's AJ Brown and Devonta Smith and end a list once again. So I could see him having another good year breaking out here.
Well, and again, you never want to forecast injury, but AJ Brown, remember when he was with the Titans, he had a knee injury also, and there's projections that his longevity in the NFL isn't going to be all that long. He was hyper targeted last year as he's reading his book on the sidelines when he was in the game. And, if something was to happen to Brown, who else do they got? Smith is the guy. And
Whoa.
What? Devonta Smith? At the wide receiver position?
You're completely forgetting about one other player. Jahan Dotson, baby. No?
I thought you were going to say Will Shipley.
Oh, no, not Will Shipley. He's not. No.
It's not Goddard.
Definitely not Goddard. But Saquon can catch the ball.
Yeah.
But Jahan J. Dottie, baby.
Another former first-round pick.
Yeah.
Both of them were pretty ugly. Oh man! But do you see DJ Moore finishing the season with the Bears this year?
I think they drafted his replacement in Luther Burden. I don't know. I think he finishes the season on the Bears, but I think next offseason it's going to be a departing. He expressed his disgust with Caleb Williams last year. Half the time he was throwing his hands down, huffing and puffing. I mean, especially if the Bears don't do well, my goodness, that man is going to be a diva, I think, on the sidelines there. So if things are rough again in Chicago, you could probably see him move on if he throws a big fit. But I think he finishes the season as a Bear, but I have a feeling Luther Burden is longing for that job of the yak guy.
I don't think he makes it through the season with the Bears this year. I think he gets traded before the trade deadline. and there's going to be a team that, loses their starting quarterback, or they lose their starting wide receiver, and there's DJ Moore.
Breaking
Up for the
news:
Pickens.
DJ Moore, quarterback 1. You heard it here. Draft him now.
I don't know if he has any experience at the quarterback position. I don't remember his high school career.
Maybe. We'll see.
Seems like a lot of these wide receivers were once quarterbacks.
But yeah, I
Anything
think
can happen. Stranger things, Colton. Stranger things.
I think
I hear there might be an opening for the Colts.
I mean, I could probably throw it as good as Anthony Richardson at this point. So sign me up, coach. Put me in. I'll take
Still
half.
throwing lasers.
I'll take half of his money.
Just half. Just a
Just
sign-on
half.
bonus. Just a sign-on bonus.
Just a sign-on bonus would be great. Practice squad money. I'll do it.
Practice. Who said anything about practice? Colton, we know that you're going to be starting up some dynasty startups later on this year. It's going to be more of a family league, is my understanding. How are you preparing for your dynasty startups?
Yeah, I got roped into a dynasty startup after I said I wouldn't do it again. I'm getting to the top limit of my leagues. And I said I wouldn't do it. My brother came to me and said, hey, I want to do one with some of my buddies. Our dad's joining the first dynasty he's ever done because he's been so reluctant to do it for all these years. I'm like, I can't not do it with my dad and brother. So I signed up for another dynasty. It's a super flex, 4-point passing touchdown, 20 point per yard, or 20 yards for 1 point per quarterback. No tight end premium, nothing like that. It's 3 flex spots, regular, everything else. My preparation as of right now is trying to get my brother to determine where our draft position is going to be so I can start running mocks. But I do about a mock a day, running, like, just rocking my kids to bed. I run a mock and I'm just jumping around different positions and trying to figure out who I can get where, kind of where these guys are going. But honestly, like, that's the way I prepare the most. But I tried different strategies with every single spot, and as of right now, what my favorite strategy is, even in the super flex, is going wide receivers 3 off the gate, like 3 off the bat. Especially if I'm missing out on, like, the big names, if I miss Josh Allen, if I'm missing Lamar, Jaylen, why am I
Hurts?
Hurts, sorry, thank you. If I'm missing out on Hurts, if I'm missing out on Jaden Daniels, I'm going wide receiver. I'm getting Chase, and then I'm falling around and I'm getting someone like Puka, or Marvin Harrison and swinging back at that bat. I'm loading up on the wide receivers, and then I'm just kind of pushing the quarterback a little bit down because I'm still getting names like, still getting Jared Goff, who is shown that he can be a fine quarterback for fantasy football because he keeps slinging. Now there's questions about it, with Ben Johnson leaving, but whatever. But you're still getting pretty high caliber quarterbacks with a cheaper price. But I'm coming off the bat with, Jamar Chase, Marvin Harrison, and Devonta Smith, or, AJ Brown even in there. So I'm getting these huge names wide receivers, and I'm set at wide receiver, I'm a big proponent for punting the running back and getting some of the smaller names towards the back end anyways. But that's kind of been what I've been finding have been my favorite mock drafts that I've been finishing with, is get the strong wide receivers at the very front, because it's impossible to get them otherwise. Like, you're not trading for Jamar Chase at this point. Like, you're not doing it. You're not getting Jamar Chase. You're not getting Justin Jefferson. You're not getting Malik Neighbors. You're not trading for those guys unless you're selling the farm, and even then, people don't want to hit yes because they're so afraid of missing out on them. So getting those guys and letting them just ride out on your roster forever. Those are the guys, like, foundations that you can actually just sit there and let them rot on your team, because they're going to be good, and they're going to be good for a long time. We've spent high draft capital, like you said. You spent high draft capital on Anthony Richardson. He didn't work out. Your value is gone. I mean, your value's never. It's gone. It's gone. Where did you take him in a startup draft?
I didn't take him in I did take him in a startup draft. I took him I was either 107 or 108.
Right. So you took him first round. Would you rather have him or Justin Jefferson?
I was between him and Caleb Williams, and
It doesn't feel good.
Didn't feel great, but I think you're exactly right, though. You've got to get your wide receivers. You got to get the elite wide receivers. You know that they're going to be people that you can just plug and chug. You're not having to worry about, oh, I got to take this late wide receiver later on in your dynasty draft. You're like, no, I'm just going to push the button on X quarterback or a very deep running back that might get an opportunity sometime during the year, and you either really like that person or that profile and you want to play them, or you're like, hey, they actually maybe hit one game and you sell, and then that accumulates more dynasty value. The quarterback position is as deep as ever. I mean, you can get Purdy late, you can get Stafford late, you can get Goff late, you can get Tua late, you can get all these starters late, you can get Geno Smith late, who's probably going to be starting for the Raiders for at least the next couple of years. Why are you reaching for a quarterback in the first couple rounds of a dynasty startup?
If you're not getting one of the elites, I'll add that in. I mean, if you're getting Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels or Lamar, I'm okay with taking those guys, but you got to be the top 4. I mean, I'm okay taking those guys because they are true difference makers at the quarterback position.
Josh Allen, is Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and Malik Neighbors and Bowers. Correct. And the list goes on. I mean, I'd rather have those wide receivers or that elite tight end like the Trey McBride or the Bowers and hope that they stay in the league for the foreseeable future versus taking a deep dive into an elite quarterback that's, let's face it, they're already starting to get a little bit older, those elite quarterbacks. Yeah. And what happens if the tush push is gone? Now, are you going to be as happy with Jalen Hurts?
I think so, yes. I think he still puts it in, honestly. I mean, that man is so strong that I don't know if that matters. I think the Eagles would have said, even if it was banned, I think they would have said, okay, we'll still do it.
He's squat 800 pounds.
He can squat so much. It's insane. I think a lot of it is him. But yes, I couldn't agree more. They're starting to age and getting those wide receivers that, I mean, Jamar Chase is what, 25, 26? It's still 4 or 5 years of elite production on your team. And those are guys that if you say, in 3 years, oh man, I think it's time to sell. They're still worth that. They're still worth multiple firsts and selling the farm to take them off of your team. Whereas, say Hurts has a couple of down years, then he loses his value quicker, I believe. But I'm totally a big proponent for getting those wide receivers and just letting them ride and get the elite ones, because once they're there, I mean, it's hard to ever get them from anybody else. And I think it's harder to find wide receivers deep into like rookie drafts, whereas you can get running backs deep in rookie drafts. Like we've seen, like Kyron Williams was a 3rd or 4th round pick in a rookie draft, and look how much production he's brought to your team. I think it's easier to throw the dart at some of those running backs deep in rookies where it is to throw darts at wide receivers. So just taking the shots and playing odds there is the big thing.
Yep, that sounds good. Now, Colton, are you one that likes to trade up in your dynasty drafts? Or are you one that likes to trade back? Or do you like to just stay pat and just get whatever comes to you?
So for the first time last year, I did a dynasty startup, and I was the 105, I believe, 105, 106. And I didn't love, it was a super flex. I didn't love the quarterbacks that were landed to me. It was like CJ Stroud. At that point last year, if we all can remember that, he was going around there. And I didn't love it. So, I traded back actually in that league to somebody. I went back to like the 110, 111 and was able to pick up an extra 5th round pick, I believe. So I did that for the first time. Normally I'm a stay pat kind of guy and see what value comes to me and falls and whatnot. But I did that for the first time and I loved it. I loved getting that extra pick in that 5th, I think it was 5th or 6th round. And I love getting the extra value. I believe I picked up Devonta Smith, and then I think I took my first running back in like James Cook around there. and was able. So I got two pretty good assets to have on my team for just giving up 5 spots. So if you were able to trade back and if for somebody that really, really wants one of those guys, then absolutely do it. But I'm not a big proponent of trading up in startups because I think you have to sell quite a bit in order to move up.
I think it just depends. I think there's a lot of people that are trying to trade back and accumulate the assets, and then some people get themselves into big trouble because they don't understand what the value really is. And if you're able to trade up and you're at the end of a tier, I think that's the time frame to trade up. And then if you find that you're at the start of a tier, then you trade back and you hope that you can accumulate assets, whether it's rookie picks or whether it's startup picks.
Yeah, I mean the first like 5 rounds, I wouldn't be trading up. Beyond that, if there's someone that I want or I see someone sliding and I really want to get them before they, get picked up, I would trade up. It's a little bit harder to make happen because people are like, oh, well, why are you trying to trade me this? There's obviously something. And so they start looking deeper. So I think it's sometimes a little bit harder in those deeper rounds, but that's where I would start trading up is, 5th, 6th round beyond.
I think you're going to have a lot of fun with your dad and your brother with this new Dynasty platform. We look forward to hearing more and updating us, how your draft went. We'd love to dissect it, when it comes to that time frame. Do you know when you guys are drafting?
We have not set a date yet. I think we're doing it either first or second week of preseason is kind of what my brother's been throwing around because he's the commissioner. I'm just his co-commish, help guiding his way along. But the fun thing is this is going to be the first Dynasty draft that I'm going to have the whole group together. I think only one guy's missing out because he lives in St. Louis, but everybody's going to be together. So it might be easier to trade up, actually having face-to-face conversation, like, and being able to do it in real time rather than waiting on a text message. And so maybe it'll be a little bit easier to move around and trade. But I'm pretty excited to finally do a draft live with everybody in person.
You guys need to just set up the date and get that St. Louis guy to come on up. It's only like a 2.5-hour drive.
Yeah, I mean he's got twin 2-year-olds, so he's got a little bit.
I know somebody else that has 3 under the age of 4. So
yeah, somebody else has that. I don't know. They're crazy though.
They're so relaxed. They're so relaxed and chill.
They probably don't like sleep,
Who needs to sleep?
Who needs that?
Although, if you're going to get some sleep, this is the off season in fantasy football. So this is the time to catch up on your sleep before the real news hits.
I will say that's the one good thing about having a young child is when they wake up in the middle of the night, you're just scrolling Twitter, getting the news right away, looking at everyone's teams like, oh, what can I move around? That's how I made that Waddle trade happen. I was just looking at teams. I'm like, I could do that. I could move that just in the wee hours of the night.
I used to just lay next to my son and just document and write on my phone, just different players, usually they were rookies, and trying to just get any little bit of information that I thought I could kind of like cycle through that would help me with my rankings and put that on my Word docs. And now this past year, being able to kind of play around on the Excel.
Yeah, I gotta update my Excel sheet so we can get our rankings out here soon. There
you go. We look forward to that. And let's keep it at that. So we'll just kind of leave that tease out there for all those viewers, Colten. They can wait. They can wait and see what the rankings have to say.
Good rankings list. That's all I know.
The best, Colten. The best. But with that, I think that's the show here, Colten. We were just kind of riffing here today, just going back and forth a bit with some of the news, getting some updates from you. Wanted to touch base a little bit on your Dynasty Fantasy Football startup draft strategies. And, we look forward to fantasy football starting here soon. We're only 6 weeks away from the preseason kicking off.
Mm-hmm.
The UFL has completed their championship game. So I have 6 weeks of just trying to listen to any kind of news and notes that kind of comes out and hope that it's not just all fluff.
It is speculation season. It is just whatever. And one last little tidbit, listen to the bad things. not the good things. Everybody's wonderful, great right now. If there's something bad coming about somebody, you know it's real. So listen to the bad, and just kind of take the good with a chip on the shoulder and everything, and let it slide off. But if it's bad news, pay attention to it, and keep those mocks going, man. It's the summer. Maka laka ding dong.
You can find Colten at FFCaptain22 on Twitter X. You can find me at FF Healers. Don't forget to look at us at the YouTube page. All you got to do is type in FF Healers and we'll pop right up. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. And with that, Colten, you will find the good, the bad, and the ugly here on the Fantasy Football Healers Network. Take care, everybody.
Salud.